Welcome back, fellas. Week 2 here of the weekend rotation. Man, it's your Saturday morning college baseball show. We join you live. We're all over the country today. I know I'm down here in Palo Alto. I'm going to be at Stanford. Jake, you're down there in Texas. Micah, where are you at today?
I'm in Texas too. Is my mic working?
Yeah,
Yes.
we
I
can hear
didn't
you.
get a chance to test it. Perfect. I had
We
to
just
hook
go
up a new
live.
mic, so I was like, I don't know if this is the first time tester, but we're good. Jake's going where I came from last night. Jake, get yourself one of these cool hats. They hooked us up this year. This is pretty cool, right? All the team logos on the
I'm
bottom.
I
definitely
like that.
those.
So
I love it. I love it. Jake Cold McKeever. Yes, there's some cold fronts going through the country right now. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, I'm actually in a warm spot right here. It was 67 down in Palo Alto yesterday, so a lot different than my home.
Mark, you'll love this. I was talking to the Oregon State staff before the Virginia game yesterday,
Yeah.
and I was like, just out of curiosity, what's the temperature in Corvallis? They go, oh, it's 56, and it was 33 down there in Texas. So they're like, you came south to get warm, and you ended up playing in 20 degrees cooler weather. So
I know. It was crazy. My house is up in the mountains. It was still 40, which was warmer than it was last night in Texas, which is crazy. So, but let's just get underway. Oklahoma 3, Minnesota 2. Kyson Witherspoon, great again, right? 7 innings pitched, 12 Ks, 3 hits. The biggest thing is the 0 walks. He gave up the 1 home run there to Josh Fitzgerald early for Minnesota, but really just looked dialed in, Jake.
Yeah, it's really kind of what you can expect from the Witherspoon Twins. So if you liked his outing today, good news for you. They're going to have another Witherspoon going tomorrow. I said this last night in a tweet. Now I'll reiterate it here. Minnesota might be the only team that's better when it's cold. So the fact that Oklahoma went out, took care of business against the Minnesota team, playing in their own territory, it was a cold, gritty win. Everybody was wearing ski masks and had glove warmers that were OU branded. And we get to wake up and do it all again today. It was an impressive outing from the Witherspoon, and we'll get to see him again today. Jackson Bolts had another hit. I'm really high on this OU team. I think they've passed the eye test early.
They keep battling. They get Oregon State today. Speaking of, Oregon State beats Virginia 7-2 last night. The 2-run single there for Arroyo, pretty much the only offense really going for Virginia. Oregon State was a lot of pitching. Keljo, Segura comes in and gets the win. He's 2-0 now. Morrell shuts it down. AJ Singer, the 9-hitter, gets a 2-run RBI there for the Beavers, and it really was the bottom of the lineup that did it. But the Beavers forced 223 pitches. That's crazy. That's almost 25 pitches an inning there, Micah.
yeah, that game was quite long, Mark, for someone that was driving back after the game. But they talked about it in the post-game press conference, their approach to how they wanted to handle these Virginia pitchers. Like Jay Woolfolk is a very, very good pitcher for Virginia, and he only went 3 innings, 80-some pitches. Like, I mean, I was texting Monty throughout the game, right? Obviously, you can see the Virginia jersey behind me, so my allegiance is tied there. Like, 6 of the first 9 hitters got full counts.
Full count.
I mean, they were working Jay, and it really wasn't like Jay wasn't throwing good stuff. They were just getting pieces. I will say the home plate umpire both ways, really interesting zone. But like these guys were doing a great job of kind of taking ones they weren't 100% sure on. We had some guys looking because of it, but I mean, Mark, I walked away from, like, as a Virginia fan, I was upset at first. I am so impressed with this Oregon State team. And what I love the most about it from their pitching side was the complete arm slot change that occurred when you go from, I'm going to say his last name wrong, starting pitching.
Keljo.
Yeah, Keljo. Thank you. From Keljo to over to, like, it was from a lefty to a righty. The arm slots are completely different. I mean, it was the Virginia hitters talked about. They were just guessing. Like, I mean, they really could not pick up on it. And Oregon State came with energy. I mean, obviously they're probably more used to the cold weather than Virginia, but I mean, there was a very clear difference in who wanted to be there. And I mean, it just tells you what this Oregon State team is capable of.
Yeah, and it's awesome that you look at a guy like an Eric Segura. He's willing to come out of the pen. Guy was an honorable mention Pac-12 pitcher last year in the weekend rotation. He's like, you know what, I'm fine being the second guy on Fridays, and we're basically just throwing 2 weekend guys back to back. It's a tough look for other teams coming out on Friday. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, these guys aren't even in full season form. They only both threw under 80 pitches. Yeah, Jake.
I was going to add before we move on that Evan Blanco isn't going to pitch today for Virginia, so he's going to be worked out in the midweek. But Micah, I wanted to bring up that picture that you took of Henry Ford where his nose is just bright red. I think that implies how that Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia, of the 4 teams there, Virginia definitely looked the most uncomfortable. It wasn't even close. Like Oklahoma, they looked cold because they had all the cold gear on, but they were prepared. Virginia was just wearing long sleeves and thinking that that was going to be okay when it felt like 20 degrees out. Like, I mean, I'm thanking everything above that I'm not sick right now because I thought for sure I was going to wake up sick this morning. Like, I mean, the press box, Jake, by the way, the windows have to be open, so enjoy that. You're going to freeze the whole game. So yeah, it was awesome. But I mean, and also Mark, I just want to give a shout out because it's my first time on this. So thanks guys for having me. Oregon State fans might be some of the best fans in the country.
Oh,
that was it was a Oregon State home game. I mean, every time there was a controversial call against Oregon State, the place would erupt. Obviously, there wasn't thousands of them, but the couple hundred that showed up were in every pitch. The chirps that they were throwing at like Jay Woolfolk when he couldn't find the zone and just everything like, I mean, it felt like a postseason game from the Oregon State standpoint. Like as a Virginia fan, I hated it, but I loved it at the same time. It was awesome.
Beaver baseball travels well. I mean, we've seen it every year in Surprise, right? It's basically a home away from home now. They're starting to do this in all these preseason tournaments. Now they put these things out there and they're saying, hey, this is our regular season. They got to go out there for all these away games because we're going to have so many this year. 36. It's crazy that the Beaver fans show up everywhere. It's outstanding. I love it all over the country. Speaking of a spot, let's go to Jacksonville there. Ohio State 8, NC State 3. The home runs from Trey Lipsy and Lee Ellis there for Ohio State. First ranked win for Justin Hare. First win at Ohio State for Hare as well. NC State only getting 6 hits, couldn't get anything going. Micah, this was, I know that you and I are both very high on this NC State team. This is a little tough to see.
Yeah, I mean, NC State's got a problem. Like Virginia and NC State kind of have a problem with their Fridays. Not saying they're not good, but they're very hit or miss. I mean, Jay couldn't finish a hitter yesterday. Again, some of that credit to Oregon State. But on the flip side, Dominic Fritton, same thing. Like, had a real issue with the zone. When you get a good Dom Fritton, that NC State team is World Series caliber. When you get bad Dom Fritton, that's a super regional at best kind of team. Like, it really is such a, like, he's so hit or miss. But you got to credit Ohio State, right? They get swept against Arizona State. You could easily come into Jacksonville. I mean, a lot of people were saying that was the worst team in the tournament down there in Jacksonville, if depending on your opinion of Coastal Carolina. And they come out and they set the tone early. They also, I mean, they put some work on that NC State bullpen too. It wasn't like they were just doing this to Dom Fritton. So, you know, Justin Hare, obviously, I think we're all a big fan of him. One of the better young coaches or up and coming coaches in the sport. I mean, it stinks it had to go against an ACC team, of course, knowing my luck, but it does just mean less, right? So, you know, it was going back and watching and looking at the box score. Like, I want to tip my hat to Ohio State, really.
Yeah, Justin Hare, friend of the program also. He's been on a couple times already. He really cares about college baseball, and it's great to see him go out there and go get his first win there at Ohio State. Tough again, though, like we said, NC State. I think that they're going to figure it out. I mean, I don't want people to get too down on any of these teams early. It's early in the season. Celebrate the positives. Don't dwell on the negatives. Alabama 9, Coastal Carolina 2. Bama scores 9 on only 3 hits, Jake. They had 12 walks, but they only got 3 hits and scored 9 runs. Really ugly game. Coastal only gets 5 hits. It was not a pretty baseball game, but Alabama, if you get the win, you take it.
Yeah, it was another one of those cold, rainy days. I will say this: Zane Adams threw an incredible game for Alabama. If he can be the Friday night guy that they've been looking for the last few years, they're going to turn into an absolute scary sleeper team that's going to knock off some of these ones. Justin LeBron had some really high quality at bats too. Jose Torres coming over from Miami, and then just something to keep an eye on. Brady Neal as this weekend kind of progresses. He was up and down a ton at LSU. How he kind of looks breaking out against some great competition. They got NC State today, a pissed off NC State team. So if they can go out, send a message to the country, and more specifically to Mike and Monty down in the ACC, they're going to raise some eyebrows on this Alabama team. I think everybody nationally is really down on them.
I know I am. I'm up on NC State. Yeah, Mike and I are both like, nah, it's not this year. But hey, they keep going out there and winning baseball games, and that's what you got to do here in early in the season. Go out there and go collect those W's when you can. TCU in Arlington, another team that went out there. They were down early to Michigan. Michigan looked like that team that a lot of us ranked in the top 25 early in that game. Mitch Voigt, the 2-run home run, gets them going. TCU takes the lead in the 6th, never really looks back, and then a pair of bombs by Cadena and Traeger in the 9th. TCU is now 5-0, Jake, and this is a TCU team that kind of reminds us a little bit of that Omaha team a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, they are without their Friday night starters, so they had a ton of kind of question marks around that Friday night role. They end up not speeding up their Saturday guy, the Wichita State transfer coming over, who's going to go in today for TCU. against that Arkansas team. We talked a ton about Michigan's depth in the bullpen this last weekend. That's what really kind of made them impressive. When I was talking to some of the Rice coaches, they were like, yeah, it's incredible the amount of arms that they can run out there. And, we saw the complete opposite with TCU. They had high quality at bats, and it seems like every time they get into Arlington, they play them close, and then the 8th and 9th, they just explode, and you look, and it's like a double-digit run rule win. They did it to Arkansas 2 years ago, and I think that they're going to do it again today against Arkansas.
Let's talk about that Arkansas there next. I'm going to go to Micah first on this one. Kansas State 3, Arkansas 2. The Eloy boys, they hit home runs, 2 solo shots, and that's all the offense you got from Arkansas. It was really a lack of game there. And then the Dean's double there for Kansas State in the 7th seals that game up. Is this shocking? Are we supposed to be a little worried about this Arkansas offense? It kind of feels like Arkansas of the last few years where we're just not seeing a ton of offense early.
So, Mark, I'm only reason why I'm going to defend Arkansas is as a Virginia fan who feels like they're in the same boat as Arkansas right now, getting off to a slow start with high expectations, right? Like I'm not putting too much weight into it. Okay. I'll give Jake credit. He was the first person to kind of open my eyes to Kansas State maybe not being what they were last year. I knew they were taking a step back, but I mean, they did regress a little bit more than even I expected them to. But, again, baseball is a strange sport, right? Like it's always going to be that way. I know, again, I can't speak for Arkansas. I haven't been around that program, but talking to the Virginia guys, that expectation that kind of came into the season when there really isn't necessarily a proof of concept Virginia had more of a proof of concept than even Arkansas has had over the last few years. But like the expectations are so high that sometimes it just happens, and Kansas State, they have to be getting desperate. They had a terrible first weekend, so they have to be looking for a way to bounce back. And there's no better way to do it than in Arlington where, obviously it sounded like it was an Arkansas home crowd down there. I don't know how Noah would say it was, but I mean, based off the videos you got Woo Pig Suey going on during the TCU game, you probably can get an idea of what the crowd looks like. So I'm not jumping back off Arkansas just yet. I mean, it's way too early to do that. And in a 3-2 ball game, I mean, sometimes you just don't hit. I mean, Virginia's not hitting right now, and I'm not going to act like Virginia's the worst team in the country because they only had 6 hits yesterday and failed to score 10 guys that got on base. I mean, it's part of the game.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I mean, I'm a guy who said that Virginia could hit 200 home runs. They have one so far through 5 games, so there's a lot to make up. But yeah, Jake, I'll go with you here on this Arkansas. The Lloyd boys are good, but are they going to find more offense elsewhere?
Yes, I think that they need to. I'm going to start to kind of lift the top off of that panic button because they had a bad outing last Friday against Washington State. I don't know how they're going to win SEC Friday night games. I get that they're going to have Gabe Gackle go, but they don't have high quality at bats whatsoever. Like they just compound bat at bat after bat at bat after bat at bat. I mean, I don't think Nolan Souza's had a hit, and a lot of people are talking about him being like a dark horse for an all SEC type player. He went 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts last night. So they're going to have to get more high quality at bats from guys that you expect to have high quality at bats. Otherwise, I mean, this could really spiral out of control quickly for Arkansas.
It's early. I'm not jumping off yet. I think that this is still a team that has the arms to be in Omaha caliber. They got to find out some offense, though. A team that finally has found its offense. San Diego 0, Arizona 11. Easton Brayfogle and Aaron Walton hit home runs there. Lots of doubles by other guys, but really just the 6 hits and 1 walk given up by the pitching staff by Arizona. Is Arizona coming back to life here a little bit, Jake?
Back-to-back shutout wins. It seemed like whatever Chip Sale said on that flight home, or maybe he was so pissed off he made him take a bus back to Arizona. They've really, really nicely. And I know that Mike and I, when we were driving back from Arlington, we were both like, man, I can't believe we have to see Arizona again. Like, I wish it was somebody else. And I kind of am getting a little bit excited on this Arizona team. I will say this. They are a team that has to stay in front of their bullpen. They don't have some of the bullpen depth that some of these other teams have. So they need to have dominant shutout winnings like this to save the back end of the bullpen.
Yeah, they got to go out there and win Friday nights. It's going to be a big key for them to hit early in those games because they got to be able to hold on to pitching. Let's talk about a team with pitching, though. A game I was at yesterday. Washington 0, Stanford 2. All Stanford. Matt Scott looked like midseason form, Micah. 10 strikeouts in the 6 innings, and then the freshman Charlie Bates goes out there and provides 2 triples and a double. Both triples almost left the ballpark. Tremendous effort there from Stanford.
I mean, this Stanford team, like, this is the Omaha-type Stanford team. I mean, this is what this is. Like, they're playing – they can play different styles of games, right? They've had shootouts with Cal State Fullerton last weekend. Now they're playing up in a pitcher's duel type game. The bats were silent. But Matt Scott said, cool, I don't care, man. I'm not going to allow a run. So you just give me one. We're good. Obviously you were there, Mark. I mean, I am so high on what this program can be. And Stanford always gets forgotten about. That's my favorite thing. I get those little placard cards every year, Mark, in Omaha that have all 8 teams with the backdrop of, Charles Schwab. And it's like, oh, wow, Stanford's on that one. And Stanford's on that one. And Stanford's on that one. Like, no one ever talked. And this is, again, it's that maybe that West Coast bias, right? Like, no one ever talked about them. Now that they're in the AC country, I'm all in again on them. But, I didn't get to watch any of the game, but I really enjoyed just, they're in the 5th inning now. Oh, they're in the 7th inning now. It felt like it was 5 minutes had gone by from when I had checked. They just were working.
And I'll tell you this much, the fans are very happy to be in the ACC. I was walking through the crowd. I got to talk to a lot of people yesterday and parents. And, other than the travel concerns, which are a real thing, going all the way to the East Coast. But honestly, Stanford's an ACC team and it fits in well. And I really believe in them. I went out there and I was super high on Stanford early this season. So far, they've proved me right. I've been very happy with them. And this team is all bought in. You talk to them, they're like, hey, 365 days, right? Like last year, we weren't this team. We're a whole nother team this year. It's impressive to see. The turnaround is tremendous, and Esker has a lot of faith in these guys, and they're putting it back on him by just performing. So I'm excited for this team. Let's go to Tennessee, Jake. Samford 1, Tennessee 5. Liam Doyle, I don't know if I can say enough about him, but the 5.1, 2 hits only, 14 strikeouts. And then Franklin comes in for 3.2, gets the 6 strikeouts and the save. Cannon Peebles home run, double from Fisher. The only run there for Samford was the Trey Higgins home run. Talk a little bit about this Tennessee pitching staff. I think it might be even better than a year ago.
It really is incredible. It's deep. And again, they're going to win a ton of games that Liam Doyle goes out there and pitches like he does. Samford's a really high-quality mid-major. They've been in the tournament 3 last 4 years. Micah's super high on the SoCon at all times. So they're a good, high-quality team. It was definitely a step up from Hofstra and Astro last week. And, they go and take care of business. Cannon Peebles has looked really, really great. I know that last year he really struggled to kind of find a role in and out. But we talked about it in kind of our previous shows. He was completely bought in. He just really wants to win. He'll do whatever it takes. And it really is great to see the game reward somebody like him with a home run. He also threw somebody out trying to steal. So it's incredible to see somebody like Cannon Peebles kind of come out of his shell a little bit at Tennessee.
Yeah, I think that this Tennessee team's fine. I think that the pitching's there. They're going to have to figure some things out on offense, but you don't lose 3 first-rounders and think that you're just going to be fine, right? Like, that doesn't just happen. You can lose a couple guys, but they lost a lot from that last year national championship team. But I think that they're fine. Pitching's going to be there. A team I still have question marks on, though, Dartmouth 3, Texas 4. Texas only 6 hits in that game. 3 of them came from their leadoff in Schussler. Ruger Ruiz comes in, gets the relief save, and Thomas Burns saves that game. Jake, are we at all panicked on the offense lack there from Texas yet?
So, like my kind of nickname is today, it was extremely, extremely cold. They really did sneak it in. But it does kind of worry me just a little bit that they don't hit the long ball, A, and then B, that Dartmouth is not even a good team by Ivy League standards. I picked them to finish last in the Ivy League. So Texas is going to really kind of have to, pick themselves up. That is the one thing is that Sloss always seems to kind of give his guys good pep talks. Whether the players respond good or bad is kind of what is telling of it. But I think that they're going to come out today with kind of a fire lit under them. But, yeah, I watched a little bit of that game. Other than Ricky Riojas, it really didn't look like they wanted to be there.
No, it was a tough one to watch. It was not the best offensive performance on either side. But let's talk about some offensive performance that did come from the Ivy League there in Cornell. 11 runs versus Duke, 8. And really, Duke didn't really get things going until later in that game, Micah. Only the 6 hits for Duke, 4 errors at home. And Max Jensen and Kevin Hager go home run for the Big Red. Ben Miller and Jake Berger go home run for Duke. But the 4 errors and just not really competitive on the mound there for Duke.
I don't know what the problem is there. I wish Monty was here because I'm sure Monty has a lot more insight onto what's going on. There's a world where Duke might be the worst team in the ACC right now, the way they're playing. Like, I don't think they're obviously talent-wise, everything like that, the worst team. But, them and Boston College are really the only ones that are playing this poorly. Yeah. It's a cause for concern. Cincinnati's a good ball club.
Yeah.
But, they needed a walk-off, not miracle, but kind of, again, a late push just even to get that game to extras. Obviously, they had to do the same thing. They almost pushed it to extras yesterday. They kind of get hot there down the stretch against Cornell. Like, they got to pick themselves off the mat, and they got to do it fast. Like, I know, at the end of the day, ACC play is really going to be all that matters. I think if you do well in ACC play, no matter how you do out of conference. I think they're going to get similar treatment to the SEC teams, right? You'll get enough RPI points to probably get in, but that doesn't mean you want to wait, and you can't afford to do it. Like the part that's the most frustrating is that was Cornell's first game. Like, look at the rest of the Ivy League teams. Like, a lot of them, again, well, I know it's down further on the list, but another ACC team played an Ivy League team in their first game and took them to the woodshed.
Yeah.
So, you have to, like, and Kyle Johnson's supposed to be that guy, and he has looked, I mean, the ACC is having an issue with some other Friday starters. We talked about Dom Fritton. We've talked about Jay Woolfolk right now for Virginia. Like, again, Kyle Johnson for Duke is on that list.
It almost feels like an identity crisis right now in the ACC, and it's early, right? So these guys are going to settle in. Things are going to get better. They're going to get longer into performances. They're going to go over 100 pitches eventually. But right now, it does feel like a little bit of an identity crisis where last year, you're like, oh, the ACC pitchers, that's where it was at. That weekend rotation for those guys, that they were tremendous. Even guys that were being replaced on the weekend were terrific. This year, it hasn't been the exact same. Jake, we're going to talk about UC Irvine, the Anteaters taking on Texas Tech. Texas Tech has not won a game now. James Castiglione, two separate RBI singles there. Jacob McCombs, a home run and a triple for UC Irvine. But the only offense from Texas Tech has been TJ Pompey. He's been terrific. He's a bright spot, but they can't get anything else going, and they're 0 for 4 now.
No, and Al Davis used to have a quote when he was with the Raiders, just win, baby. Texas Tech's just losing. Like, they're being competitive in all these games. They're just not having it go their way. They're having bullpen blow it down the stretch. I will say they did play UNC last week. They did play UC Irvine.
It's not easy.
Yeah. It's not like they're playing, slap happy baseball.
Playing 2 top 25 teams to start the year. It's not exactly an easy road.
But I keep reminding myself about this Texas Tech team that you need to lower your expectations on them. Yes, they have Dominic Bravo. Yes, they have TJ Pompey. But, this is not the Texas Tech team from 5, 6, 7 years ago at all. And people need to kind of stop pretending it is. So they need to kind of lower their expectations a little bit. But it's really interesting that you need to kind of look at the Big 12 holistically. Texas Tech's really not that far behind from those teams that have really showed out. So while it's not time to hit the panic button yet, they need to just get some confidence going and understand that they can win these close games.
Find a W somewhere. That's what you got to do early in the season when you get this kind of slide going, because they're not a bad baseball team and they've played 2 top 25 teams, but you got to find a W when you can.
But having your worst start since 1982 is not going to help that confidence.
That's what I'm saying. Like, going 0 for 4 is not the favorite thing when you're Texas Tech and you're used to winning. That's a tough one there. A team that is used to winning as of late and playing very good baseball, Georgia Tech, 12-1 versus Marshall. Burris continues his hot streak, another home run, 3 for 3, 3 RBIs. Alex Hernandez, 2 for 3 with a home run and 5 RBIs. Tate McGee is great start, 5 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, 6 Ks. Micah, this Georgia Tech team, they're starting to put their way in people's minds and faces as maybe an Omaha caliber club.
I'm still pumping the brakes a little bit on the hype train. It is Marshall and Old Dominion. But we've always said on our show, we've been doing our ACC baseball coverage on the Just Means Less before we joined the College Baseball Central team for 4 years. If they could just find a bullpen system that works, this team is capable of a lot. And when Danny Hall was thriving and taking Georgia Tech to Omaha and super regionals on a consistent basis, that's what he had. He had a solid bullpen, good starting pitching, and he's always had offense. There's never been a bad offense, I feel like, in Danny Hall's entire history at Georgia Tech. And right now, the bullpen, we have NC State. We have some of these really top-tier bullpens in the ACC. Georgia Tech's been the best bullpen in the conference, and it's not close. They are lights out. Again, Old Dominion and Marshall, but what they are doing there's tons of reasons to believe. And again, I'm the first to say it. I think Drew Burris is the best player in college baseball. When you have, again, last year, Georgia had one of the best players, the best player, right, in college baseball in Condon. And it kind of like that team had other pieces, but it felt like they were still missing some and still pushed their way to a super. That's kind of what I'm looking at with Georgia Tech right now, a team that has that anchor piece and has a lot of other things cooking behind it there's a reason to think that there's a regional being hosted in Atlanta this year.
Yeah, and starts like this from Tate McGee really keep me on the hype train. It makes you go, okay, all right, this is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see some long innings. I wanted to see some guys go out there and really perform well, especially like you said, the bullpen for Georgia Tech has been an issue in the last couple of supers that they've been in. This is the thing. If they can get out there and go collect outs, they're going to have the offense. We all know the offense is there. I just think that continue to collect wins early in the season is a good thing for Georgia Tech down the stretch here. Absolutely. CBC partnered with these wonderful guys called Chinook Seedery, and if you guys have not bought any Chinook seeds, you are freaking missing out. They are the best seeds on the planet. There are 8 flavors out there. if you're like, oh, I don't really like spicy or I don't like super flavored, guess what? They have a sugar one there out there in the cinnamon toast that is freaking delightful. So go out there, go buy some Chinook seeds, use our code CBC, you get 10% off your entire order. Go out there and buy cases of those trials. Go get them. All right. They come out to you 32 in a big trial pack. You get 4 of each flavor, figure out which one you like, and then order a bunch more. Love the Chinook seeds.
My hand was numb, but you can see I'm eating my cinnamon toast last night in the press box while they were doing a Chinook read. So
I love that we all had pictures of our seeds all over the country last night.
So,
like, oh, we got
Mark,
these.
I'm going to tell you a quick story about Chinook. I don't want to take too much time. So I obviously shout out to the Chinook guys. They sent me, I'm looking at 13 boxes stacked behind my computer right now. And I was like, okay, I don't need all of these. Let's try to indoctrinate some people. So obviously with my full-time job, I'm lucky enough to work at Lamar. I'm like, I'm just going to put some in the clubhouse, like, because I don't need these whole thing. I did a little sample pack thing.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, they were gone in 20 minutes. And I'm getting texts from coaches, hey, I need some more of the hatch green chili. I need some, like, I guess the jalapeno ranch is a big thing at Lamar.
Jalapeno ranch is awesome.
People, I haven't had that one yet. So I'm actually taking a bag to the ballpark today to try it. But I mean, and they're actually, Jake, you'll actually get some when you enter the ballpark today. Chinook is a big partner of what's going on around Rock right now. They're actually handing out seeds as you come in. The amount of people that we're talking, and I feel bad for the cleaning crew because there's seed shells everywhere. But like the amount of people that we're talking about it, like it, I mean, I love those guys. And like that's what's great, Mark, is that they're not only are they a partner, but I mean, I'll speak for myself. I actually enjoy their product. So it's not even like I'm having to pull something out of my rear here. Like when I'm at Buc-ee's now, I just laugh when I see Biggs and Davids next to Chinook. I'm like, come on, who's going to grab those when you got Chinook right there?
It's a fact. And I've put even before they were a partner of ours, I was eating the seeds and I was out there fishing. I'm telling people the Parmesan cheese and peppers, I take them out and then all of a sudden I'm starting to catch bass. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the smell on the line. I don't know if it's me eating the seeds. Yeah, Jake, they crush. But jalapeno the jalapeno ranch is a freaking great flavor. Enjoy that today, Micah.
No way.
All right. Let's talk about Cincinnati, Mike. I know we already talked about them. 6-0 win over UNLV yesterday. Corey Klingenbeck goes out there 2 for 5, 2 RBIs. Cal Selchik gets out there, gets a home run. Holds UNLV to just 3 hits. This is a good hitting UNLV club, too. And 12 Ks for the staff. Just really good performance here so far this early season by Cincinnati.
I'm so happy for Cal Selchik. Mark, if you don't know, I've hyped him up. I got to watch him in Kingsport this summer back when I was living there in the Appy League ballpark area. And, you know, he was someone that didn't get the time he wanted at Indiana, goes to Cincinnati, and he's earning it. He's proving it. Like, he proved that he deserves to be in the lineup every day. This Cincinnati ball club, right, like, I'll be the first to admit, I said on our ACC show when we were previewing the Duke series that I didn't think they were going to be that good, and Monty looked at me like, you're stupid. And, Monty, you're right. Like, this ball club, like, they're a legitimate contender to win the Big 12. Like, I feel like the Big 12's open. I'm still very high on Oklahoma State and TCU. But I'm not saying that they're runaways, right? Like Arizona has a conversation. Cincinnati's in that ballpark. West Virginia's in that ballpark. UCF's in that ballpark. I mean, the Big 12 is going to be really fun to watch. I'm kind of glad the tournament's down here in Texas. I'm going to try to sneak over for a day or two of it. Like, it is genuinely, like, as an ACC guy, I'm supposed to hate the Big 12 because we're conflicting with each other. But I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing from these Big 12 teams, and Cincinnati obviously is on that list.
I'm shocked that people keep saying that they're not going to get that many teams in the tournament. I think there's a lot more tournament teams out of the Big 12 this year than people think. There's a lot of good teams in that tournament.
Yeah, my bracketology, where I only had 5 or 6 in preseason, that I've been slowly chipping away at it, and more and more I'm like adding like Big 12 teams on bubble. And I'm like, crap.
You're like, oh, if they keep winning, they might find their way in.
They're going to take some ACC bids, and I'm not going to be happy about it, Mark.
Yeah, Jake.
Okay. I was thinking about this. If Cincinnati makes a regional, I'll take a bath in Skyline Chili.
Clip it. We need this, Mark. We need this clip.
And throw it out to the committee just so they throw them in a regional.
29-27. I'm putting it in my phone notes right now.
I'm excited for Cincinnati. They're chippy. They're like almost like a poor man's Clemson with how much of like they chip and like talk. I've had other Big 12 coaches said that they're like, yeah, we're not looking forward to Cincinnati. It's like they were a pain in the ass last year. Now they're even better. Give me Cincinnati in somebody's regional.
They feel like a really gritty team, and you know we love our gritty teams here on College Baseball Central. Cal Poly 1, A&M 6. Krahovac hits the home run. Hayden Schott gets 3 RBIs. Jace hits an RBI double. Prager 5.0. 4 hits, 2 walks, 2 Ks, no earned runs off the staff. It just kind of felt like a blah game there for A&M. But these are the kind of games you got to win early, right, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, it was brutally, brutally cold. I posted that picture of Jace Lavalette with the gator that had dirt on it. I mean, Cal Poly's a decent team. Coach Lee usually has the boys really good. I did have a few correspondents that were at the game that said we had 3 or 4 home runs knocked back by the wind when it gets warm. So this was just an old school A&M game. It felt like everything last week was just, hunched back. Everybody was kind of on edge. A nice, relaxing win to kind of ease everybody's nerves. High quality win. But again, don't get too high on your wins. You got to come back. They're going to have Lampkin going today for him. It's going to be brutally cold again today. I'd like to see a little bit from Sawyer Farr. He's kind of starting to break out a little bit. So I'm really excited to kind of see what they do today.
Jake, I'm also going to throw you Omaha 2 and LSU 4. Yeah, it's another win for LSU. Cade Anderson looked good there in the start there. 5.1, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 8 Ks. But only 7 hits for LSU. Is this kind of the LSU team we're looking at this year where we're not sure where the offense is going to come from? Or are they going to figure this thing out?
I mean, it is only one game, but that is kind of my worry with LSU going forward is when you play a lot of, it seems like the formula to win in the SEC is hit home runs because you only need 1 hit as opposed to 3. I think that LSU having to string together hits is a little bit telling, but again, at the end of the day, they do have Cade Anderson. They're going to have Ianson going today. They're going to have Chase Shores going on Sunday. So they're going to have, they're kind of the pitching that we thought Arkansas was going to be. I'd like to see a little bit more offense, but again, it's cold. Never complain about wins when it's cold. I think that they should almost count double if they don't reschedule them.
Micah, I think this is the game you were alluding to earlier where Penn lost 2-24 to Florida State. They had 20 hits as a team, only 1 extra base hit. That is 19 singles for Florida State. That is a lot of contact to be putting out there. The home run was Drew Farrow, who hit his 4th of the season so far. Jamie Arnold looked great there in the start. Talk a little bit about this Florida State offense that just seems to be on fire early in the season.
This Florida State team, where we're just taking what we've seen, sample size 5 games, and this is not, I really don't think this is bias kicking in, has been the best team in the country. I mean, I genuinely believe that. Like, the pitching has been from top to bottom, starters to bullpen, incredible. I mean, again, they haven't played the world's greatest teams, but they're playing higher caliber teams than Omaha, right, than LSU, or no disrespect to wonderful Elon, but Elon's in the same ballpark as a Penn team. So, what they're doing right now, they are sending a message, right? I was high on them, and then the whole Cam Leiter thing kind of started to scare me away from them a little bit, and now I'm fully bought back in. I mean, Jamie Arnold is obviously doing what Jamie Arnold does. The lineup, after they lose a couple key guys, you lose the AC Player of the Year and James Tibbs III. Doesn't seem like they miss him that much. I'm sure they would take him if they could, but it doesn't look like from a production standpoint they're missing that bat right now. I mean, they are I don't know if Link Jarrett's just pissed off about how it ended last year and just said, you know what, guys, we're going to pump everyone until we get all of our anger. When you go to those smash rooms or get a bat and you just get to hit whatever you want until you're tired. I think that's what's happening right now in Tallahassee.
Every single starter got a hit yesterday, which is incredible in that lineup. Anyway, I'm with you, Mike. I have Florida State and Oregon State after this weekend so far as 1A, 1B. I think that those are the 2 best performing teams as far as pitching and hitting and across the board. Florida State has just been tremendous. And I was a little shocked in the offseason and kind of waited to see with Cam Leiter news, and we're still trying to wait. If he ever gets back this season and they have that 1-2 punch, that feels like a ticket punch.
It's going to be unfair.
Yeah, it really is. Northwestern State and Troy, we threw them in there because Troy has been playing good baseball. They lost to Auburn, but they're a top 25 caliber team. Daniel Burraway solo shot, the only offense for Northwestern State. Blake Cavell goes out there 4 for 5 with the double RBI. Garrett Gaines goes out there, goes 5 innings, gets the win there for Troy. Jake, how much we loving this Troy team? And I know that they lost to Auburn, but Auburn's not a bad team. Auburn's a pretty good baseball team in the SEC this year.
Yeah, they got walked off by Auburn too, so it wasn't like I actually did a little bit of research on Troy as I was on ESPN Southwest Florida last night. Troy's a quality team. They have a Team USA guy in Brooks Bryant that kind of runs the show, but they have a ton of supporting pieces around them. They have a really underrated bullpen that I think not a lot of people are talking about. And you mentioned that the Big 12's kind of playing up. I think the Sun Belt's going to be a lot better than people think too as well. Just to kind of give the Sun Belt a shout out. Texas State. Yeah. Coastal, Troy, UL. I mean, Southern Miss had a really high quality game last night against Louisiana Tech. So, and while we are talking about Troy headlines the Sun Belt. So if the Sun Belt's good, Troy's good. and they definitely have every argument to be in the top 25.
And I'm going to push my Southland propaganda. Yesterday, 2 Southland teams took down power teams with UCLA falling to Corpus Christi, and then we had Boston College, hurts the ACC, of course, losing to New Orleans. So I'm just saying these Southland teams, oh, wrong side, ain't no slouch. Just saying, where is it? There's my logo right there. We're gonna rep the SLC.
This is my big take on what I see in college baseball this year. There's a lot more good baseball teams and a lot less great baseball teams. So there's so many more good baseball teams. I think there's 100 good baseball teams that are going to go out there and could win any single day. There's a lot less teams that you go, they're going to win every single night. There's a lot less great teams that you go, they're going to beat whoever they play out there. There's going to be like this 50-win team. And we might get a couple this year, but it's not going to be like years past where like, oh, there's a clear cut between the top 10 and the rest of the country. I think that it's pretty muddied up there in the water, and I think there's a lot of good players across the country in every conference. I'm very excited for this year so far. Kentucky 2, Belmont 1. Nick McKay goes out there, just dominates for Kentucky. Really good start for him. 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, the 7 Ks, 1 unearned run. Only 6 total hits though, Jake. Are we worried at all about Kentucky's lack of offense production, or is this team with 29 newbies just still getting going?
I think the second one of 29 newbies still getting going. This is only their 3rd game and only their 2nd day to actually play. So there's still so much unknown about this Kentucky team. We don't know how they're going to do Rafe Pelletier, Devin Burks, because it's only been 3 games. They won. The strikeouts are, I'm sure, a little bit too high for Nick Mangione, just because that's kind of his signature is put the ball in play. It definitely doesn't feel like a Nick Mangione team right at this moment, but I think once they kind of get bought in, they'll get rolling. But again, it's just so early for Kentucky. They're probably the only team in the country outside of the Ivies that get a pass on every single for a couple days.
Can I put a take out there? I'm gonna put it
100%.
This Kentucky team reminds me of Wake Forest from the year before. Has a really good year. Obviously, I don't think the roster is the same. The expectations are obviously a lot higher for Wake going into last season, but kind of feels like the same type of thing where they have what would be a blip, like in the history of the program, a blip with going to Omaha, obviously making some noise in Omaha, and then kind of struggling to start. I mean, if you remember last year, granted it was more midweek stuff with Wake, but like they lose to UNCG, they lost to I think Elon as well, like or High Point, one of those. Like they're losing these games. You're like, and then even the ones they're winning, it's like, why are they only winning 4-2 against St. John's or insert whatever school they're playing at the time? Like it kind of gives me that same. And then Kentucky's doing a very similar principle to what Wake does. They like to go to these mid-major teams on the road. Like obviously they open the season at Lipscomb. Wake loves going to NCA&T and High Point and go down the list of mid-major teams they travel to. So it kind of just gives me a similar type of thing where, again, they're going to be a caliber team. I'm still in belief that they're going to probably sneak their way into the NCAA tournament. But like, it kind of feels similar where like you have such a big year that like it's hard to replicate that over and over again in programs like Kentucky, right? It's not normal. It's not the norm. So,
yeah, Jake.
I think Bunning doesn't slump, so I think that they're going to steal a lot of games like that. I think that they kind of remind me a lot of Wake this year. I'm not sure they have the pitching, but I think that that's a better comp as Wake this year for them.
I just mean more like the vibes. I'm not even really trying to go to roster because obviously Wake had 3 top 10 picks last year on their roster. Just like you have that really big year. You kind of your fan base, right? Expectation wise is let's run this back. We're capable of doing it. And you're getting these they're not looking awful, but there's no like, I mean, I don't want to speak for Kentucky fans, but I don't think any single Kentucky fan right now is looking at like any of these games so far and being like, yep, this is the one I point to that shows we're going back to Omaha.
Well, they did win 10-0 last week on Friday. And granted, they backed it up with a loss, but I think that they play like that.
Yeah.
They only struck out twice a week from Friday. So, again, they've only played 3 games. So, it's really, really odd that they're behind the 8 ball, it seems like.
I'm going to skip over a couple scores here and just read them out for folks here so we can keep this thing going. Oral Roberts, 8, gets 3 in the 9th there to walk out or to beat Arizona State. Ends Arizona State streak at home. I know that this is a team that we all think is right there on the bubble of being another tournament team and could be there. It's Willie Bloomquist trying to go out there and get the wins there and win the Big 12. Oregon Ducks lose at home against Rhode Island. Rhode Island goes out there and beats them 12-11. They were up 12-4 at one point. Oregon comes all the way back, but a little bit too late there and drop another game at home. They've lost to Toledo and Rhode Island at home now. Not exactly what Duck fans were hoping to be, top 10 program. They're still in the top 25, but that's kind of a tough loss there. But Micah, I want to talk about Bryant 6, UCF 7. UCF walks it off and stays 5-0. I got a lot of belief in this UCF team.
Yeah, they're a team that I think are on the cusp of being a contender in the Big 12. I'm still not completely in love with how much they're struggling in some of these wins, but we're talking about we've talked about what half the top 25 has lost at least one game. I mean, the number 2 team in the country is 2-2 right now. So there has to be something to be said about winning the actual games. So, I mean, there's a lot of, again, they did a great job in the portal. That's a program that, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a sleeping giant per se, but again, it is in the state of Florida. They're now a little bit more resourced with the power money. Like, there's a reason to believe that this is just the start of something with that UCF program.
I really like the direction they're heading, and they have a great weekend rotation. I think that they're going to be okay. I think that this is a good thing. I mean, RPI says go win games early, right? If you go win those games, that builds you up immediately, and that's how you get into this tournament. Jake, did you want to throw in something about UCF?
Yeah, I think they are a sleeping giant. They've invested a ton in that program. They're going to get a huge alumni base the next 5-6 years. It's get them now because they're going to be a force in the Big 12 in the next 3-4 years.
Yeah. Another score I'm just going to throw out there: Nebraska 6, Louisiana 1. Mason McConaughey goes out there, 6 innings pitched, 4 hits. Nothing really special on that offense there, but a good win for Nebraska to go to Louisiana and win. Princeton loses at Miami, another ACC team beating up on another Ivy League team there. Tanner Smith, the Oregon State transfer catcher, goes 2-run home run. The biggest thing has been the pitching there for Miami, though. Let's talk about that, Mike, because Miami's pitching seems to be really, really improved from last season.
What's crazy is last year's problem with Miami wasn't really the starting pitching. They had one of the better rotations in the conference with Gage Zeal. And, of course, I'm drawing a blank now. And, of course, the other 2 guys, that's how my brain works. And you only have 4 hours of sleep on you. But, that was a very underrated rotation. The problem was offensively, they weren't very good. They're much better this year offensively. And their bullpen's a lot better. Obviously, it stings, right, working at Lamar. Hearing Jackson Cleveland, the closer, who was a big part of Lamar's big year last year, now being the guy at Miami. But their bullpen is a lot better. And I think that's the difference right now for the Canes is the fact that, last year when the starters came out, when it was Zeal would come out, you kind of start to get a little bit worried. You're like, all right, well, you're only up 2. They're probably not going to score much more. They're probably going to lose this game. Where now you sit a lot, you feel a lot more comfortable. Obviously, it's been Niagara, it's been Princeton from a win standpoint. Obviously, the midweek loss to FAU, but it definitely feels like this program is. I mean, they're off to a much better start than they were last year. So at the bare minimum, there's reasons to be excited.
I think it's the bullpen, and I think that a big reason of that. I mean, I'm a big Tanner Smith proponent, thinking that he does really well with the pitching staff, and the staff seems to be taking another step forward. And if that weekend rotation can get through enough innings, and that bullpen is as good as they could be, I like this Miami team moving forward. Jake, Florida 13, Dayton 1. This is our last game we're going to talk about before we get to our superlatives. Bobby Bowser goes for a home run. Blake Sear, Colby Shelton, Hayden Yost, they all double. But the big story is Liam Peterson, good again, 4 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, 5 Ks.
Yeah, he's been absolutely incredible. I did have a quote from a coach. Someone was like, hey, if you were to build the perfect person off of this rotation this year, like arm of so-and-so, legs of so-and-so, curveball of so-and-so, who would it be? They said 4 of the 5 would be Liam Peterson. That'll kind of show you how incredible he legitimately has first-round stuff. He has top 5 stuff. He is working through some mental stuff as he is seeing a sports psychologist with stuff like that. It really is incredible that if he can figure out the mental side of it, the sky really is the limit for this Florida team. And they have Jake Clemente, Pierce Coppola going today. I'm really, really excited to see Florida. And I think I might have to add Florida to kind of my wagon list, too. They have Brody Donay, one of my favorite players. And then somebody told me I looked like Colby Shelton yesterday. So them. I really, really like this Florida team. I have them in that tier 1 with LSU, Tennessee, A&M, and they've shown it early.
Coppola was a freshman All-American before he got hurt in his sophomore season. This guy is a guy that could be at the top of the program. He's going to be your Saturday guy, maybe Sunday guys that go forward. I really like this staff. It's more than I thought I would for the Florida Gators right now. Something cool. Jake, I know you got cold in your name, but I'm going to let Micah go first here. Something cool that's happened this week or over the weekend so far, Micah?
I mean, I'll just go selfishly as someone that grew up a big University of Virginia fan. Yesterday was the first time I felt like a University of Virginia media member. Jake, you'll learn pretty quickly. I was the only person asking questions that wasn't with Peak for Oklahoma, Minnesota, and Virginia. There was one Oregon State guy there, Mark. I know you'd be happy to hear that. But other than that, there was no media. Maybe Saturday will be better, right? But yesterday, I mean, there was literally nobody. So it was kind of cool to have access to ask serious questions to Coach O'Connor about Evan Blanco's situation. Obviously, as a Virginia fan, it was great to hear that he was ready. It was more of a coaching decision to just get him out for a midweek instead of throwing him to Oregon State's lineup as his first time seeing live ABs in a while. But, from that standpoint, that was really, really cool. And just being it really, I know it's a cheesy slogan, the best outside of Omaha, but I really felt like I was watching some incredible programs this past, yesterday with Oregon State, Virginia, and Oklahoma's right there. And Minnesota is one of those up and comers in the Big Ten. I really like, of course, I'm drawing a blank on the head coach's name, but I really like what his vision is for the program. We asked him about that during the post-game press conference. So, and kind of the approach they have. So I think that was something that was cool that happened. Plus, it's always cool when you get to sit in 34-degree weather at a baseball game because it's literally cool outside.
Jake, something cool.
Baylor 5-0 for the first time since 2019. That shutout's only the third time since 2002. I was super, super high on the Bears going in. I felt that this was a super underrated team with all the injuries that they dealt with last year. They get a great pitching coach in Sean Zinsendecker, and it's just like a switch. I think we need to add Baylor to wagon status.
I'm going with another team that started off 5-0, Hawaii, and they had 3 walk-off wins in their first
hottest
5
team in
games,
the country. Was it a
crazy.
10-game winning streak or something like that?
Yeah, they finally lost last night. But
that's right.
They lost late last night, but this team was the hottest team in the country. They had won 33 of their last 35 games or something. It was insane. This Hawaii team, and they continue to find ways to do it. The walk-offs at home, I think that was something cool. And then Liam Doyle, the 14 Ks there in the 5.1 was, his career high there for Tennessee. Really cool to see, and getting to see all the folks and fans down here at Stanford yesterday was awesome. I mean, there's tons of people in the crowd. I was surprised by a Friday 2:00 game here on the West Coast, and it was filled up in that stadium. And I'm going to go back there today. Can't wait to see another game at Sunken Diamond. Biggest surprise over the week? I know freezing temperatures over most of the country is a big surprise for people, but Jake, biggest surprise?
Arkansas. I was not very high on Kansas State. I still am not very high on Kansas State. I am starting to kind of press that printing, but Arkansas, I thought they would have definitely come out with a little bit more fire than they did.
Micah, biggest surprise?
I'm cheating, but I'm gonna go Virginia. I mean, you're preseason number 2. You're 2-2 on the year, and again, I think the part for Virginia that's most frustrating is it's not. I mean, the pitching's not been great, but pitching's not the problem right now. It's the lineup. They're not hitting. I mean, it felt kind of like what you see with Virginia and Omaha the last 2 years, where they just are, they're swinging first pitch, flying out, popping out, grounding out. It just doesn't. I mean, again, there's a difference in the pitch counts for a reason yesterday. Credit to Oregon State's hitters, but on the flip side, Virginia was swinging first pitch on almost every single at bat. And I'm not saying that's the right approach, wrong approach, but when you're grounding out with your first pitch, that's not doing you any good. So at least when you ground out with 10 pitches like Oregon State was doing, you're getting a guy out of the game earlier. So I think Virginia for me is probably the biggest surprise, and hopefully it turns around for me.
I have that highlighted that literally their only home run is from Arroyo so far in these amount of games, and it's crazy because this is a team that I do believe can hit a lot of home runs this season. A lot of season left. Not time to panic yet. I just believe that this is one of those things. Texas Tech going 0 for 4, and TJ Pompey doing all the offense for them has also been a surprise for me. Who needs to get going, Micah? Who needs to just figure it out and start rolling?
Duke. Keep it ACC focused. Duke's got to wake up. I mean,
triple underline Duke.
They may have been a little overrated. Again, this is a program that's had success, but again, they got bounced in the regional last year. It's not like this team is Omaha consistent or something like that. But I mean, Cornell, Cincinnati, kind of wrote it off a little bit. You beat UNCW in the midweek, and you start to think, okay, maybe they're figuring it out a little bit, and then, I mean, Friday night loss like that to Cornell, first game of the year for the Big Red. I mean, that's just, you got to get going.
Yeah. Jake, who needs to get going?
I'm going to be honest. This one was pretty tough for me because the SEC went 15-1 yesterday. So I have to stick with Arkansas because they're the only one that lost last night. So Arkansas again. But if you're going to make me pick another one, I would say Princeton. I think that they have some Ivy League expectations this year. So I'd really like to see a little bit more out of the Princeton Tigers.
I want to see Oregon Duck baseball get going. I know that the Beaver fans are not going to love me saying that, but when you're talking about a team that a lot of people projected to be in the top 10 and an Omaha favorite, and they're now 3-2, and they've played all their games at home so far, they get 36 home games this year, which is a record for the Oregon Ducks. I want to see them get going, and it's not necessarily one thing. It's like some games it's been hitting, some games it's been pitching. They need to just get rolling as a full team, and I think that Wazkowski gets them going. I think Waz is just a terrific coach out west, but that's somebody that needs to get going. What fan base should feel really good or confident right now, Jake?
Alabama. Roll.
Wow.
Alabama. They
Chill out, Nick Saban. This ain't game day.
pressed. That's their first test. But I did want to bring them up just because we saw what their rival did last year in Jacksonville, where they, won the weekend and then immediately kind of flopped for the rest of the way. Alabama, definitely, if you're a fan, you'd feel pretty good about them right now.
Okay. That's a different take. I didn't think you were going to go that direction. Micah, who feels good?
I'm stealing your team, Mark. Give me the Beavs.
Yeah.
The way they're winning baseball games right now, they're winning them in different ways. They're winning at bats. I mean, they're winning at every aspect of the game. I mean, genuinely yesterday, I don't think there's a single facet of the game that Oregon State did not win. And again, whether Virginia's got it rolling right now or not, that is still a top 10 roster in college baseball with what Virginia has. I mean, that was, again, they did a great job last week in Arizona doing kind of similar things, winning at bats, the arms, the pitchers are winning individual matchups. I mean, Oregon State fans should have reasons to believe that they should be looking at maybe a trip in June to a nice place called Nebraska.
And Jake, you get to see Dax Whitney, the terrific freshman today, going in. And they have just a plethora of pitching. I know Rich Dorman's really excited about this pitching, so Oregon State should feel good. I'm taking a lot of things you said, Micah, and putting that towards Stanford. Stanford's figured out ways to win baseball games. They look like an Omaha team from years past of the Stanford club. They're experienced. They have a good mix of leadership, and then they have these freshman kids that have come in and just played tremendous. Charlie Bates, and of course, Rintaro has been terrific at first base, better defensively than I think people thought he might be over there as a big athletic kid. I'm really high on the Stanford team. I think that their weekend rotation puts them in there. I think that this fan base should feel really good, especially if they go take care of business this weekend against Washington. Final thoughts, Micah, as we head into the rest of the weekend and week 2.
I'm excited to announce I'm seeing my 14th college baseball game already. I'm going for 100, so pretty pumped about that. We got the Albany Great Danes today here at Lamar. But Jake, I'm so sad. I'm going to miss you. When I got my credential, they handed me yours first because they thought I was picking up for you. And it made me a little emotional because I was like, after the bonding trip we had last week, it was really tough to be alone yesterday. It probably would have been nice because we both would have been miserable together. So it may have been almost worse, 2 miserable people instead of 1 temperature-wise. But Jake, I just know I'll be thinking about you today.
I'm sad I don't get to see you guys until basically Omaha at this point because I cover everything west of you guys.
Mark, I'm getting more and more like I'm looking at my bank account saying no, but my brain is telling me Corvallis sounds great like in April or May. So you might see me earlier than you think.
I got a place. I got a place for you. Jake, what's some final thoughts here as we head into the rest of the weekend?
I'm excited to see if this can be the first day since at least 2014, because that's all I made it back to, where every SEC team goes undefeated. It's going to be tough sledding for Oklahoma State. It's going to be tough sledding for Alabama. Maybe even Missouri because they almost lost last night. So I think that this is going to be the day, though.
Boo that man. Listen, I'm excited for college baseball. Honestly, I'm so happy that we're back and these fans across the country are already showing up, and it's February and these fans are showing up all over the country, whether it's the tournaments, whether it's home games for the first opening weekend. I love that the fans are back, and what March Madness basketball, we don't care. We're into baseball season now, folks, and I'm very excited. Thanks for joining us here on the Weekend Rotation. Micah, Jake, go enjoy some baseball today. Can't wait to go watch some baseball at Palo Alto myself. See us next weekend. We'll be here.